Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, and this is your chance to join us for discussions about all kinds of cool things in the world of service. Our particular focus is on innovation, education, and entrepreneurship. We have a worldwide membership, although we focus on different kinds of things in Silicon Valley, and most of our members are here. But we love to reach out to people everywhere in order to share cool ideas about anything that relates to this trio of interests that we have related to service, innovation, entrepreneurship, and education. And today you're going to be hearing from a colleague of mine in South Africa. His name is Kevin Sherman. He's an American who moved there and has been working with all kinds of educational technology possibilities for schools there. And also a teacher, William Koopman, from South Africa, who has done lots of interesting work. And our format's a little different today. We'll get started with Kevin giving us some background, and then he'll do an interview of William for us. That'll take us through the first part of the program, and then we'll have the chance to do some Q&A. So we've got a good group with us from our club. I'll ask the members of the club to wave as we get to each of you. We've got our Rotary Foundation Chair, Frank Trapicchio. Hello. Right. We've got Mark Doan in Michigan. We have got Nate Gildart in Tokyo. And we've got Sviatko Chidorov in Los Angeles. And we are all excited to hear what Kevin and William have to say. So I will hand it over to you guys. Welcome. Welcome to our club.
Thank you very much. So I moved to South Africa about 9 years ago to try to do good, quote unquote, in education. And I'm going to start out today by giving you a little summary of some research I did when I was at the University of Cape Town a few years ago around barriers to technology adoption by teachers. And I thought that that was important to give your audience a little bit of context around what are the challenges that are faced here. I will spare all of you the gory details of going through all of the research that's available, but because there's quite a bit. So I'm going to just quickly share my screen and talk over some slides. And then we will come back to William, who is actually in the context. And I just wanted to note that William selected this title, and I think that it's an important title to sort of focus on, because we are talking about certain contexts in South Africa. My research was on barriers to technology adoption, specifically by teachers. And when we talk about technology adoption, we think about two kinds of barriers. First-order barriers, which are things like security. So this is actually a photograph of William's classroom, and one of the challenges that he faces every day is the fact that he can't just leave the technology in the room, close his door, and go home at night and expect to find it there the next morning. So you'll notice those windows in the background of this photograph. There are no burglar bars, which is something that we would need here in South Africa. And so if William wants to do any kind of presentation with a data projector, he's got to go and check it out of a safe and plug it in every single day and plug it out and pack it up at the end of the day. So that is a barrier because he's got work to do. And generally, that's the kind of thing in a first world context that we would take for granted as, oh yeah, I'll walk into the room and that data projector's there. But then we have second order barriers, and when I did my research, this was what was more interesting to me, and those are the barriers that are intrinsic to teachers. So they would be things like cultural factors, beliefs about teaching, beliefs about children, plus the cultural aspects of an organization like a school. So think about all those things that affect our decisions around and our motivations around using technology. And one of those particularly unique to South Africa is this idea of saving face. And saving face has to do with one's status in the community as well as one's status in front of the learners. And I've got a couple quotes from teachers who I interviewed as part of the research. And this is in response to asking the question is, why wouldn't you use technology, or what are the reasons why you might not want to take kids to a computer lab? And the teacher said, because kids, well, you know, if you enter their class and you're not actually clued up as to what you're doing there, how to operate the computer system, that makes a teacher look scared. Even with all the knowledge you have, you stand there and you just click buttons. So that teacher was concerned about things sort of not working. And another one of these secondary order barriers is this notion of control. South Africa has a much more authoritarian culture, as William is nodding his head next to me, than, say, an American culture. And so for the teacher to be in control is important, but also for the teacher's status within the school to be seen as being in control by her manager. And connected to that is a fear of authority and what the authority can do. So another teacher said, and to take a class to the computer lab would just be a nightmare for me. I'd be more worried about if something were to go wrong with the technology. The principal is always telling us we have to be so careful and things get broken. It's too much responsibility. I can control them in my class. I can control them in class, in my classroom. So there's a teacher who's has anxieties around what the principal is going to say, around what the children could do, and all of those anxieties are sufficient to prevent her from using the technology. So in January of this year, my colleague and I were approached by Google to help do an implementation of a Chromebook project where class sets of Chromebooks were going to be given out to a couple of schools. And William was one of the teachers chosen to be part of this project. It included us trying to solve some technical solutions, but it also involved having us be available to do professional development. So as things happen when we do technical deployments, there were many delays, and after some time, William was finally, not very long ago, it's about 3 months, isn't it?
No, I've only had access to about a month. Actual working on the book, a month and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Month and a half. So we did some training prior to that. We had the challenge there was connectivity, was getting the internet connection right into the building. We offered a temporary solution, and then once there was connectivity, all of William's kids have a Chromebook, and they're able to access the power of the Chromebook / the Google Apps environment. And what struck me, and William will get, this will come across as William chats, but what struck me was how quickly William was able to sort of overcome all of those barriers, or in fact maybe not overcome them, but just not exhibit them. And I'm curious from an innovation perspective, what makes William different? He's in the exact same context, and we'll talk a little bit about his context as we go. So I will begin. William, you're an English teacher and the grade head. How did the principal invite you to be part of this pilot?
I think my government wants the kids to be exposed to technology at an earlier age, say from grade 8 and 9, where at the moment they're only exposed from grade 10, and then only if they choose the technology subject. If they don't choose the technology subject, they won't have access, and they would then still have to go to a computer school after graduating from high school. So the government would like to develop digital citizens from a younger age, and I happen to be in charge of discipline for the grade 9s, and so because I'm in charge of discipline for the grade 9s, I was sort of roped in to this project. I was called to the office and I thought, what did I do wrong today? And then I was pleasantly surprised with these two the bright and cheerful faces, and they said, you've been picked, your lucky day. And it really was. It was my lucky day.
Some teachers would not say it was their lucky day.
No. Remember, when we were there, I said, I'm going to push this thing to the limit. And you guys said, that's what we want to hear. And I've been doing that.
Yes, you certainly have. So can you tell us a little bit about how you became a teacher? And this may get into some of the context of the history in South Africa.
My answer is slightly different to the one I gave you earlier, but it's the same. For most of us, you'll notice I'm the only non-white in the group at the moment, which is fine, but in South Africa you have sort of communities grouped based on their color. And so in fact, in South Africa I'm called a colored because I'm brown. You're either white, black, colored, Indian, Chinese, but okay, so I'm colored. And in my community, we impoverished, we poor. And the only way you get money to go study after school is if in those days you became a teacher, a policeman, go to the army, or a nurse, or a lawyer. And so if you wanted to go study, my parents didn't have money for me to go study, I had to become a teacher. That was the one. But in my community, 10%, only 10% qualified to go for tertiary education. And I was one of those, and in one of our assemblies, the principal said, those who are going to university will be privileged, are the privileged ones. And he requested or instructed us to please give back to our community. And that just stuck by me. So number one, it was financial. My parents didn't have money for me to study anything else. I was supposed to go on and do other studies, become something else. But I love teaching. I enjoyed it. And I've stayed here. This is my community. I grew up in one of those houses. I think Kevin showed you some of those buildings. I grew up on those streets, and I understand those children, and they need to develop dreams and goals and aspirations, and that's my job, and I found that very rewarding up to now.
So these are some of this is nearby, near the school?
Yes, this is right next to the school. This is, you'll see, those are the backyards, and those are called flats. We call them flats, not apartments, and each block has 4 families, but you would find up to 2 families living in an apartment or a flat, including, that is what we call a Wendy house, which is basically a garden shed. And in those garden sheds, there are 1 room or 2 rooms at the most, but you have complete families living there. In other words, you have fathers, mothers, children living in 1 room, and they're sharing that space on somebody's yard. And so it's hard to imagine how some of them appear at school presentable, polite, neat, smiling, but we're used to it because that's our lives, that's our environment, and education is one of the only ways, because in my community, because poverty is so everywhere, your escape would either be gangsterism, your escape would be alcohol abuse. My community has one of the highest rates of methamphetamine use in the world. And we're increasing the gap between whoever is second. But we first in terms of drug abuse, alcoholism, and all those other factors that go with socio-economic challenges. So Kevin is showing you my school. You'll see the broken windows. You'll see the disrepair. That's just our environment. We are used to it, and to some extent we don't notice it anymore because that's just it. That's what we are given, and we have to make the best of it.
That's actually the window that William and I are facing right now, and these are some scenes outside of his classroom. And when you start to just look a little closer, you begin to see, there's a slow, I think decay might be too strong a word, but maintenance is a challenge. Partly that's a poverty constraint, but also it's
that's my classroom door. I want to show you I do get sunlight. So on a bright sunny day, I'm cheerful and chipper. That door's been like that for 3 years now.
We were just talking about the door being patched up because there had been some kind of a...
One of the learners kicked it in because he didn't like me asking him for his homework. I needed his homework on a particular day, and he got upset, and that's what happened to my door.
So I guess, William, let's change gears now and talk about how things have changed as a result of having a device in the classroom. What has that opened up for your students?
I suppose for me, number one, it was an incredible eye-opener. Because I am qualified and I have internet connection, I assumed everybody has internet connection. And we've discovered that 5% of my learners have internet connections at home. And so they haven't been exposed previously. That's the one thing. And the other thing is it's really challenging for them at home to have access to technology, because bread and butter issues are that, literal bread and butter issues. And so having the technology and having access has literally opened up our world where I can show them the benefits of having an education. I always tell them, this is what people have made, this is what people have produced when they, for example, their math is up to standard. Just to maybe give you an interesting statistic of the 200 grade 9 learners we have this year, in June, only 8 passed the government's minimum pass requirements to go to the next grade, of which 5 of them are in my class. So for your audience also, in America, I think you are sort of used to 1 to 25 teacher ratio. In my school, we have a 1 to 40 teacher ratio, going up to 50. I've just matriculated a class with 55 learners, so it's a 1 to 40 something ratio, which makes interacting challenging. But having the Chromebooks and having the kids learn the technology has been very exciting, because I sort of spend the night previous trying to at least not look like the fool Kevin says we're worried about. But I challenge the children. I say, look, I don't know anything about this. And the kids teach me things within 5 minutes. I'm always amazed. It took me the whole night to learn the one thing that I'm teaching them. And in 5 minutes, they figure something out and they come teach it to me. So I'm learning a lot faster also, because if one child learns a new thing every 5 minutes, I learn 25 things in an hour. So that fun relationship where I don't claim to know everything, and I ask them to teach me, they find very rewarding, very empowering, because it also means I'm interested and I think they're smart.
And how has it changed them?
I've watched them build self-confidence. I've watched them do what I thought is impossible things. With the Google Docs, I'm an English teacher, so they add photos to their essays. So I have color essays, which is it's mind-blowing to have a essay with a picture that the child thought was appropriate. They go and they search the extensions and they bring in the mind map program so that they plan their essays better than what I could have encouraged them to do. We're getting good at planning. We're teaching each other Google Calendar. After your visit, Rushton, I must say I got all inspired and said, do a video presentation. And I had no response for 2 weeks, and I thought, man, this is too hard for these kids. And one child actually did a video for me. And I thought, if this child can do a video, now all of you can do the video. And so I've stuck with that topic. I'm looking forward to some of the others. And her video was on starting a community garden. So we're starting a garden at school, which in the 20 years I've been here, I don't know why it did occur to me, but I never had but the kids are going to do it, so it's great. I'm talking too much, I'm sorry.
No, that's the point of this. So Russian, I'm mindful of your time, and I think that's actually a really nice place to hand it back to you. I'm sure you may have some other questions.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that our group does as well. When I think about a lot of the things that you presented, William, I mean, one of the first things that strike me is the international nature of the issues in play. Things like classroom size, because 1 to 25 is pretty rare here in the United States in most public schools. It's typically in the 30 to 35 or higher, but not 1 to 55. I mean, what you were dealing with typically. And then, I think about teachers being worried about trying something out of fear that they won't look like they've already mastered it, and that problem that comes from teachers not understanding the opportunity that is there by essentially being a confident learner. Hey, show me what you've learned here. Teach me, and the kind of confidence that gives students when they are trusted to be people who can teach as well, and you're living that. So that message is, I hope, one that many of your colleagues are getting excited about. Schools in disrepair is kind of a more common issue in the United States, and sometimes we pretend. I mean, but then again, clearly you're talking about another level of it. I tend to think that we have, we have this need to give kids a visual sense of hope through education, right? That when they come to a school and they look around, if the school is really well cared for, they know, right? This is what education yields, is this kind of space. And while relatively speaking, it might look better than, kind of the informal buildings next to the flats, still, right? So it's exciting to me to see what kind of stuff you're doing, and especially that what you're able to articulate about the experience is going to be inspiring to others. I want to open this up so that some of our guests who are members of our club might be able to ask you some questions as well. I see Mark and Nathan already on the unmuted video. So Mark, let's get you started. Do you have a comment or question for Kevin and William?
I have probably an hour and a half worth of comments and questions because, gentlemen, I've spent the last couple of years working with incarcerated and adjudicated youth here outside Detroit. So many of the things that you talk about with student behavior, doors kicked in, yeah, and kids flying off the handle, as we say here. I've seen all those things. Also, teachers fearful, and the authoritarian part of administrators, because when the administrators are afraid of the state, and then they bring that fear down to the teachers, who then become afraid of the administrators, and everybody's running around in this reactionary culture of fear, of using all the material, and then it just swings around. And hats off to you guys for allowing yourselves to be exposed as, this is not the stuff that I grew up with, how do we use this in our classroom, and really creating that culture of showing and modeling learning and what it means. Because I think that's probably the most important part of what we do now as educators, is simply model how you learn, and asking those questions and moving through that fear. Learning sometimes can be fearful, and if you express that and show that it's not going to be that bad if you fail. And the other part is the culture of failure and how we learn from that. So I have about 1.5 million questions. I want to contact with you guys offline, because I think there's a lot of material that we can share and compare notes on about that. But yeah, well done, well done. I'm glad to see and excited to see what you guys are doing. And I want to turn it loose with the rest of the group, because we've got a bunch of people there. Cool.
Nate, why don't you kick in? There are all kinds of experiences you've had in different settings that I'm sure kind of bring to this as well.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I myself, I teach at a private international school, and that's kind of been my teaching for 18 years or so. So, not being in these buildings that are in desperate need of maintenance and that kind of thing. I mean, by Tokyo standards, I say my present school is, but a lot of the things that you're saying really do resonate. It's interesting you say there's resistance from faculty, but hearing from a different perspective, like at a fear of not looking like I know what I'm doing, because of my students, I have to save face, and saving face is a big thing in Asian culture, but here it doesn't quite exist. But one thing I have noticed is resistance from even international school teachers to using new technology. I'm a middle school and high school teacher, but I'm also a technology coach. So part of my job is to sit down with teachers and help them. First, they come to me with learning goals, and then we use technology to enhance that teaching and learning. But it's incredible the amount of resistance to a privileged, place. So it's kind of embarrassing to say that, but I see it pretty much every day. I do have a question. I'm kind of curious now. You're saying this is a pilot project that you worked on with Chromebooks. I'm curious, how many other faculty members were on board with that? Did you meet much resistance to that? Adopting more technology in the school. How are you coming? Because you mentioned some of the kids are doing better, but how far along in the project are you? I'm just kind of curious. If that made any sense.
Yeah, no. I'll just say so when we came in, we did a training with the whole staff on Google Apps, gave them an introduction, set up the school in the Google Apps for Education environment. But the focus was going to be on 2 teachers. One of those 2 teachers left to become a deputy at another school, so that left us with just William, which could have been a blessing in disguise. Although I think the other teacher would have been great. What I want to just add one thing though about the technology. What I have noticed is it is, and we say this a lot, that it is disruptive. And when we talk about innovations, we think about disruptive innovations, and sometimes just throwing devices into a classroom, as you know, goes nowhere. In this particular case, though, I'm seeing disruption, and the disruption, I think, has caused shifts in William as both a teacher and a person, which I think he could speak more of than I can. But his interest is in expanding it. I've met another teacher who we're hoping to expand this to next year. He's got keenly interested in getting more devices so we can add another classroom to that. But the goal was to show how the devices would work as a one-to-one classroom-based environment, as opposed to the standard here, which is a computer lab, which either doesn't get used or is used by a particular subject. So that was the focus of the project. You want to add?
What's going to be nice is how this technology will be able to hopefully improve our maths results. In my community, of course, maths is a stick to its subject, and it's sort of repetitive in a way, or maybe the way it's presented, but whatever. We have little to no maths graduates at all. In fact, they drop out of maths, they drop out of school. There's 50% dropout rate from starting school to ending school, and then with maths, starting maths in grade 8 is compulsory to grade 10. We only have about 20% doing maths, and then we have about 5% passing in maths. And so this technology is definitely going to help with showing. I'm sure you're familiar with Khan Academy and the work it's doing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so it's going to be, because some of my kids say, "Sir, you're an English teacher, how can you teach me maths?" And so I just shut up and say, watch the video and watch it as many times as you need it. That's going to help. But at the moment, it's just one class, because security at my school is such a big issue. We first have to sort out a few other security bugs in terms of classrooms and so on. So because carting the technology in and out every day is a schlep. It's a schlep. It's where we're going to store it, and it's a big responsibility also. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Very well. One of the things about math, right, is that when we talk about technology, and technology has made such a difference in so many places, and obviously a dropping price point. When you think about iPads, amazing tools. Mark has done amazing work with special ed students, especially with what those tools can do. But as prices come down, and you've seen this, I think, a lot with Chromebooks, you begin to see what these cheaper but powerful devices can do in settings where there's the greater need. I mean, when kids latch onto this stuff, and suddenly there's that sense of hope, right? Because that's where education makes a difference. When a child has hope that the education can lead somewhere. And what excites me about the use of technology is not so much that it's the technology, it's that it engenders hope. And you talk about confidence issues. William, I'm guessing that this kind of goes when you have confidence with technology. There's a certain sense that, okay, I can learn from the kids. When you have confidence with math, I mean, just being able to talk about math as if you're not scared of it means that a lot of kids will come along, as opposed to, I think my teacher doesn't want to talk about this more, or, whatever, right? I mean, sometimes the issues are much more interpersonal than they are technical or even financial. I mean, is that kind of in the same space? I mean, I was really struck by I think you said that you had 8 of the 200 kids kind of meet minimum standards for math, and I thought, wow, I mean, there's that hope needed for math, right?
Yeah, and the minimum standard is 40%, and kids have given up before and that needs to turn around. The attitude to say, I can do it, I can master this, and then they need time on task. They need someone who's willing to explain it, because some of them are really far behind. And with the particular set of videos and with the technology, in fact, what I'm discovering is they have a challenge with, like, even a simple thing like a flash drive. I said, this program has all the videos of all the topics, and it's about 15 gig. And my top student said, "Sir, I will not be able to get a flash drive from my dad. I can just forget about it. And so what does a flash drive cost? In our terms, it's about 100 Rand, which is $10. And that's challenging for my kids. And so it's nice, I was talking to Kevin, it's nice to be able to say, okay, come during breaks or come after school and use the Chromebook and we'll do a math study group basically together. And if you still struggle, I'll help you and we'll learn this thing together. So it's a start of that journey. It's absolutely, like I said, I've only had this technology available for the past 2 months.
So I'm a former English teacher, and my greatest fear is William's going to switch and become a math teacher now.
Well, rock and roll, right? I mean, this is suddenly we're going to learn a bunch of new stuff. You know, how are we going to deal with that? Actually, we've run our time. Everybody who is participating in the group right now, I mean, once we stop the broadcast, we'll be able to, like we always do, we can continue talking about cool ideas. One of the benefits of actually being part of the broadcast. And I want to kind of wind this down, especially for all of our members and guests who are joining us this week, getting to see this program, getting to hear about this environment. You're seeing a connection between what happens in a school where things seem so consistently, you know, kind of unhopeful. And then a change happens, and somebody steps forward and says, "Let's try something a little different." And then kids start rising to the occasion, right? And then they start showing what they can do, and then, oh, I could make a video, and oh, I can teach you this, and that's the excitement for us. That the innovation is that we can bring a certain kind of hope through giving kids the chance to show that they have something to contribute as well. And I think that's wonderful, and a wonderful message that you guys are living there. So for all of our members and guests, as you finish up the recording, and what you're going to do is you're going to scroll down the page a little bit farther. You've already read all the information that we've got up there. You've seen kind of the other videos as well. We want you to leave us your comments. Leave a comment where you say, this is what I'm thinking about, or here's some questions I have, and toss them in there. And we're always happy to kind of continue that discussion using the discuss section below. Additionally, there is an attendance survey, so make sure you do the attendance survey. If you're a visiting Rotarian, having done that properly, we'll yield an email to you that you can pass along to your secretary to use for a makeup meeting. So with that, I want to pass this back to Kevin and William for kind of last thoughts, and that will allow us to finish off the program for this week. So Kevin and William, put you guys on the spot. You know, what's kind of the one message you want to get out there for Rotarians around the world listening to what you guys have to say?
I think you pegged it in your summary, that it's not about the technology, that it's really about how technology and bringing technology into contexts like this can unlock relationships. And what I've noticed is that Williams, from what he says and from observing his students, the relationship between the teacher and the students has changed, and the technology was simply the vehicle that created the space for that change. And that's been exciting for me to observe. As an outsider. As an insider?
As an insider, I'll just share what I shared with Kevin earlier in the week, is that it's just the tip of the iceberg. I can only imagine the places we are going to go and the things we are going to do. Sorry to quote Dr. Sears, but it's breathed new life into an old, burnt-out teacher. So I'm glad you guys are interested in my journey.
Absolutely. Well, William, Kevin, thank you guys so much. Everyone else, thank you for joining us. We hope you will join us every week at SiliconValleyRotary.com. And with that, we will finish up today. But wonderful to have so many people join us, especially at this time of day. We're recording this starting at 5:30 a.m. Pacific time, and beginning to think we should always do it at this, given the size of the group we've got. But have a wonderful week, and join us every week, SiliconValleyRotary.com.